How you guys doing? HumbleZeus here, and today I'm going to be giving you guys my first impressions on Battleborn. Having downloaded the beta yesterday and played about a day and a half worth of content, I want to share with you guys what my thoughts and feelings are on this game, because I think it's really cool. I think it has some really great aspirations and some really good ideas, but I do want to let you guys know, the good and the bad before you do anything with this game. So, starting off, we're going to focus on what Battleborn is, because if you don't know what it is, it makes it kind of hard to tell you one thing or another. Battleborn is Gearbox's kind of League of Legends, I would say. It feels very similar to it. It has some similarities to it that really make me think League of Legends. So if you're someone who likes that game, you might really enjoy this. If you're someone who doesn't like it, it's different enough that it really won't bother you. So Battleborn is a first-person arena shooter, but it has its own story mode, so if you don't want to go into the PvP arena style, you don't have to. You can easily stay and play the story missions, and there are so many characters in there that you have a lot of replay value before you start getting bored of seeing the same thing, because there's so many different ways to fight, but I'll talk about that later on in the video. In terms of how the game looks, because, starting off, this is the first thing you're going to notice, is the game is very cartoony. It's not very serious, it doesn't take itself very seriously. It's chammed with, it's just chock full of jokes. It's a lot of joke, it's a lot of Gearbox humor. If you've ever played Borderlands 1, 2, pre-sequel, you're gonna feel right at home. You're gonna feel right at home here. Having picked up the controller, and I played a lot of Borderlands 2, I felt immediately at home. I kind of knew how everything was supposed to go after getting a basic rundown on the abilities. Everything just felt very Borderlandsy. And honestly, the game looks like Borderlands cleaned up. That's really what it looks like. It looks like they took off all the grime from Borderlands 1 and 2 and said, you know what? We're gonna make everything look beautiful, futuristic, and chrome, and you can see it in the gameplay in the background, but everything looks just beautiful. I mean, it's not the most amazing game in terms of graphics, but it's still wonderful to look at, wonderful to play. It's very easy on the eyes, very colorful. If you're someone who prefers like colorful games over kind of gritty, realistic games, then I think you'll like it. Moving on to how the characters look, the characters are all amazingly designed. They're all wonderful designed. I was kind of afraid they were gonna have like a whole bunch of characters kind of cloned of each other, like, oh, look at it, it's a new character, but the only difference is her armor is like red compared to this one who's blue. But no, every character feels and looks very different, which is amazing, which means that everybody's gonna find somebody they like aesthetically. You might not like one character because like, wow, I don't like her armor or whatever. Or you might be like, I like his armor, but I wish it was like a different color. Well, there's a lot of customization there, but at the end of the day, they're all well designed. They all feel like there was care and attention put into them. And again, there's a lot of characters in this game, so it's good they did that. It's good they didn't just make clones. They really went through the effort of designing cool and creative characters. And the characters are all very unique. You have like Arendi, who's like a weird witch doctor character. She's very strange. She's played by Tiny Tina, if you know who that is. Tiny Tina from Borderlands. She's played by Tiny Tina, her voice anyway. And she's just absolutely insane. She's absolutely insane, but she's very memorable because she's insane. You have Marquise, who's like a insane robot who literally just flies around with his owl. I believe his owl's name is Houdini, who will screw with you if you're not careful. He's a sniper. He will screw with you. And he's just a very unique character. They're all very unique. You have Benedict, who's a flying eagle redneck. You have Thorn, who's like a Russian savage. Like, they're all very unique characters. They're all very memorable. So I'm glad they put a lot of effort into making their characters not follow some rigid kind of stereotypes, but rather they're actually very unique and very different. Even the characters who initially on paper don't seem very special, which is really good. So, we're going to move into the combat, because not a lot to talk about in terms of appearance, but combat, there's a lot to go into. So, combat, again, based on how many characters there are, is very, very different depending on who you're playing. If you're playing a support character, you might find yourself hanging back a little bit more or hiding behind your teammates, whereas if you're playing a melee character like Wrath, you'll find yourself up front in everybody's face, and then you'll have characters that are kind of in between, like Oscar Mike, who's just kind of like the in-between character, who's not really a long-range character, but not necessarily going to get in your face either. There's a lot of different characters to play, and you'll find some that will suit your style. In fact, I recommend finding one of each, definitely. At least one close range, one long range, one mid-range, and one support. Find characters who are going to fit those roles, because it's good to have some diversity, and it would be a shame not to take advantage of the massive character roster. Of course, don't force yourself to play anything you don't want to, but definitely take the time to look at the characters and see who you'd like and who you dislike. So a big part of combat with these characters is their skills, and the fact that there's a lot of customization in the skill trees. So you get 2 skill trees, and they each have one point in that you have 10 levels, at least in the beta as of now, so 10 levels. So as you're playing, you will unlock these abilities, but you have to choose one or the other for each level. So if you hit level 2, you have the option between two abilities. You either can, let's say, get more damage, or maybe your skill lasts longer. So you have to kind of choose, and you'll lock the other one out, and then eventually, until you hit level 10, you'll keep unlocking skills you have to choose between. And this means that you can set up your character to the situation you're in, rather than being forced to use a build that doesn't work in that level. So if you're, say you needed DPS before, you don't have to worry about going into the next level and needing crowd control, because you can just spec for crowd control this time. And unfortunately, while you can't reset your stats, or at least reset your skills in mid-level, which is unfortunate, but I understand why, it's a lot of fun to just, you know, throw builds together and see what works and build skills. While initially you might not know what you're doing with those skills, as you play and as you master characters, you learn how to put their skills together a little bit better, and it benefits you overall. So the skills allow a lot of diversity within the characters, and again, that adds to that replay value, because each time you play a level, it's going to be a little bit different depending on how you spec. Now, I'm sure there are going to be plenty of build videos in the future that are going to come out and make everybody, you know, use the same build, but I encourage you guys to at least try out, you know, some weird mixes and see what works, because we don't know yet. The game's very new. We don't know what skills are going to mesh together really well, so there's no point in jumping in and using the same build each time. Feel free to diversify it. You know, if you need to play support, put some more support perks than it's assault perks. If you need more assault, do the opposite. So that's there for you guys if you want to use it. Now, in terms of weaponry, everybody has their own weapon. Everybody uses one weapon that can either change, like Marquise, who uses a pistol but changes to a sniper rifle when he aims down, or you're gonna have characters who use like magic, who won't really change their attacks but gain more powerful versions. What I like about this, and what I dislike about this, is that for one, it means that unlike Borderlands, where you had to spend forever searching through weapons to see which one was better, you don't have to do that anymore. You just kind of pick a weapon, you know, you pick your character, they have their weapon there, and then you just focus on their skills. Whereas in Borderlands, you're like, alright, you have to focus on your skills, your weapons, your perks, like everything. It gets kind of out of hand. You spend too much time just sitting in one place reorganizing, and it's a pain. Really, this makes it much simpler, because all you have to do is select the character, and that's your weapon. And there's a lot of different weapons types. You have Thorn, who uses a bow and arrow. You have Oscar Mike, who uses a assault rifle. You have Orendi, who uses magic. You have Renee, who's like a laser pistol and a gauntlet that fires like high-powered plasma blasts. So you have different characters who will do different things, and it makes the playstyle very unique and very different, especially because those skills can start acting on those normal abilities. So it's good to play around with. I'm not going to spoil the combat too much. Definitely try it out for yourself. You probably like one or two characters' fighting styles over another. It's just what you have to figure out on your own. So in terms of enemy types and bosses, enemies are pretty standard across the board. There's nothing really super special about them. They're basically cannon fodder. Outside of mini bosses and eventually the bosses of the missions, there's nothing too special about them. They're usually just there to help you rank up so that way you can tackle the bosses and mini bosses better. Of course, that doesn't mean they're not unique. They're just not very hard to kill. So we have robots. You have these weird little shadow creatures who appear in some missions, who are definitely, you know, something you have to watch out for, because they will kill you, as will anything in this game. You have like just normal henchmen that aren't really all that tough, but occasionally you'll find a few that will manage to mob on you, and they all have their own types. You have long range enemies, mid range, and close range, and there are some support enemies too, and there are aerial drones who will attack you. So there is enough diversity there that some characters are going to handle well, some characters are going to handle poorly. And you kind of have to work with your teammates to cancel that out. So if you're someone who's like, I can't hit this aerial enemy because my shots are too slow, then, you know, inform your teammate. Be like, hey, attack this guy. And they're like, okay, and they'll take care of it. Like Benedict, he has a rocket launcher. He cannot really shoot anything flying in the air. But Oscar Mike can do that because he has an assault rifle. It's not hard. So, you know, you kind of have to work with the strengths and weaknesses of your character, which is a really difficult thing initially, but it becomes more fun and adds a bit more depth to the game. Now, the bosses themselves are really fun. Each boss, unlike in a lot of games where you just kind of shoot the boss until they die, has their own little gimmick or mechanic that kind of slows down the fight. So, the first boss I fought was the kind of shadow boss, and he continued to another dimension. I was like, whoa, okay, where am I? Why is everything all starry and weird? And that was a lot of fun because I was like, did I break the game? Something wrong? No, he just banished us to another realm, which was really fun. When we came back, he had these minions that are putting up a shield around him, so we couldn't hurt him until we took out all the minions. But if we didn't do it fast enough, he sent out this wave of energy that could kill us all. It almost killed our entire team. We almost had to wipe and start the mission all over again. Thankfully, one of our members managed to get right out of range and survive just long enough to revive us, and so we had to quickly get rid of those shield generators before we died. And that was just a very simple boss. It wasn't a hard or difficult boss. It was just a mechanic that added a bit more tact to the mission. So we had our sniper take care of the shields while we protected him because he was best equipped to fight this guy. He was best equipped to take out the shield generators because he could do it from one spot across the map, which was really good. So the bosses themselves aren't necessarily difficult, but they are a little bit complicated. They have their own mechanics, but they're very easy to tell what you have to do, which I'm not necessarily fond of or hate. It's just very simple. So the bosses themselves aren't really all that difficult. So we're going to move into the last part, which is the PvP. I want to do a more in-depth kind of review when the game fully comes out, but I don't want to spend too much time talking about any one thing, and combat is definitely a very broad topic, so maybe I'll do other videos on it later, but I want to talk at least about the PvP for a little while. So the PvP is, like I said, an arena-based game, and why I say it was like League of Legends is because it revolves very heavily around minions. Minions are generally, you have to lead them places. Usually you have to lead them to an objective where they either will destroy something or sacrifice themselves. And while you're doing that, you have to make sure that the enemy players aren't destroying your minions and that you're killing the enemy player's minions, my bad. So this kind of adds a whole different perspective because it's not like TDM where you just have to kill each other, but rather if you want to win the game, you got to focus more on keeping your minions alive and the enemy minions dead. And I actually kind of like this because as someone who's not necessarily a huge fan of PvP, mainly because I'm bad at it, it gives me something else to do. It means I can just focus on killing the enemy's minions while occasionally taking out an unaware enemy. And the skill leveling is very reminiscent of League of Legends, where because you level up while you play, the more experience you gain, the more skills become available to you, the more you can upgrade those skills, the better a player you can become. So say if you're level 3 for the whole game, you aren't doing a lot, but if you're level, like, let's say 7, you've accessed a good majority of your skills and you're now able to really help your teammates out. And again, you can play any class, so you could be a supporter and just help your, like, I'd say tank clear enemies while just kind of staying back and only healing them or fighting them with shields. So there's a lot of different things you can do even if you're someone who's not necessarily a fan of running into the fray or fighting against other players. Of course you will die, and that's a natural course, but it's still a fun experience, especially if you can get some friends together. So PvP gets a plus from me. It's a lot of fun. I think a lot of you guys are going to enjoy it. There's 3 different modes: Meltdown, Incursion, and Versus that are available to us. So take a look at them. They're fun. They're a lot of fun. I'm sure that you'll find some gameplay of it. I'll be posting some gameplay of that later on. But in terms of my first review of the game with so much to cover and so little time to unfortunately do it, I had a lot of fun. I definitely recommend you play it. I would love to record it in the future. I probably will alongside Overwatch when that comes out. But it's a lot of fun. Definitely go play the beta if you have the chance to. I believe it will be coming out on all of the consoles and PC, obviously. So, don't be afraid to get it. And if I'm wrong, I'll put some amendment in areas. If I'm like, if I got some information wrong, then whatever. Also, remember, this information is coming out for the beta. So if you're watching this when the full game is actually released, then things have probably changed a little bit. Characters might have changed or been redesigned or whatever. I doubt it, like that big, but it could happen. So, don't take everything too worried if you're watching this after the games actually come out. So I hope you guys enjoyed. I'll see you guys in another video very soon. I'm sorry for the very long video. Zeus out.